You don't need a higher income to feel financially safe. You need one number that turns panic into annoyance. And no, it's not $100,000. It's $10,000. Because below that, life doesn't feel expensive. Life feels fragile. Picture this. It's 3:07 a.m. You're awake for no reason. Except, your brain is running disaster simulations like it's being paid. Car breaks down. Laptop dies. Tooth starts screaming. Your boss needs to talk. Your dog eats something that costs 4 digits to remove. And the worst part, none of these are rare. They're just Tuesday. When you don't have a buffer, the world isn't risky. You are. Here's the twist. $10,000 doesn't make you rich. It makes you hard to kill financially. It doesn't buy you luxury. It buys you options. And in this video, I'm going to show you 3 things. 1. What actually changes after your first $10,000? 2. The traps that keep people under $10,000 for years. And 3. A step-by-step plan to build it, without turning your life into a punishment. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Life without $10,000, the hidden tax. When you have $0 saved, money isn't a tool. Money is a countdown timer. You don't decide. You calculate. At the grocery store, you're not choosing pasta. You're choosing whether you can afford to be a person today. Your friend says, dinner. And you suddenly invent a hobby. Oh, I'm reorganizing my spice rack because $25 shouldn't be a crisis. But when you're tight, it is. Micro twist. This isn't a budgeting problem. It's a volatility problem. Your finances aren't bad. They're unstable. And unstable money makes you do dumb things. Not because you're dumb, because you're cornered. What $10,000 actually changes not spending. Now, most people here save $10,000 and think, oh, so I can buy nicer stuff. No. Most people who hit $10,000 don't suddenly buy caviar. They buy something else, breathing room. And breathing room changes your behavior. With no savings, every decision feels dangerous. Switching jobs, moving, taking a class, negotiating rent. With $10,000, those same decisions feel manageable, not easy, not guaranteed, but manageable. Micro twist. The money doesn't change your life by being spent. It changes your life by being there. Trap map why people stay stuck under $10,000. So, why do so many people never reach it? It's not because they're lazy. It's usually because they're trapped in a system that quietly drains their cash flow. Let's map the trap. If you're under $10,000, you typically have at least one of these symptoms. Symptom number 1, I make decent money, but I'm always at like $300. Symptom number 2, I try to save, then life happens and I'm back at 0. Symptom number 3, I saved a little, then I relapsed and spent it. Those symptoms have real causes, not moral causes, not willpower causes, math causes. The 5 traps fast? Clear? Slightly savage. Trap number 1. The minimum payment treadmill credit card minimums are not progress. They're rent you pay to your past self. A balance at 24%. APR doesn't just sit there. It eats your future paychecks. Micro twist debt is a subscription you didn't mean to sign up for. Trap number 2. Car payment gravity. A $600 car payment doesn't just cost $600. It removes your ability to build a buffer because it's not a bill. It's a monthly anchor tied to your ankle. Dry truth. You can't out-budget a car payment that's bigger than your savings plan. Trap number 3, subscription fog. It's not the $12 that hurts. It's the fact that you don't see the total. 10 small subscriptions become one big invisible bill. Micro twist. You don't have a spending problem. You have a visibility problem. Trap number 4, windfall savings. Some people save only when a tax refund hits, or a bonus hits, or a birthday check hits. That's not saving. That's hoping. And hope is not a financial strategy. Trap number 5, the trophy trap. You hit $2,000 or $5,000. You feel proud. You should. Then your brain says, I deserve it. And suddenly, your emergency fund becomes a vacation fund, a gadget fund, a just this once fund. Micro twist. If your savings doesn't have rules, your emotions will write them for you. The real enemy under $10,000 volatility. Here's the core problem. Below $10,000. The smallest surprise has the power to reset your life. That's why you feel stuck. Because you're not failing to move forward, you're constantly being pushed back to start. So the first goal is not wealth. The first goal is anti-fragility, which brings us to the rulebook. Rulebook. Rule number 1. Define what $10,000 is. For rule number 1, your first $10,000 needs a job. Not a vibe, not a dream, a job. Because if you don't give your money a job, your lifestyle will hire it immediately. So here's the simplest framework. Even if it's all sitting in one savings account, you label it in your head as 3 buckets. Bucket A, $2,000 instant problems. Car tow, new tire, urgent care, last minute flight for family. Stuff that hits fast. Bucket B, $3,000, income gap. Paycheck arrives late, hours get cut. Client doesn't pay on time. Not a crisis, but enough to mess up your rent and groceries. Bucket C, $5,000, job shock. If you lose income, this is what buys you time. Not forever. Not retire early. Time to breathe. Apply, negotiate, and choose the next move instead of grabbing the first thing that stops the bleeding. Micro twist. This is why $10,000 feels like a phase change. It covers most real-life chaos. And once chaos stops controlling you, you finally get to drive. All right, you've defined what the first $10,000 is for. Now we build it without relying on motivation, guilt, or a new month. New me personality. Because motivation is cute. Systems are reliable. Rule number 2. Your first win is consistency, not amount. Here's the part that annoys people. The fastest way to $10,000 is not some heroic savings rate. It's not breaking the chain. If you're starting at 0, your goal isn't save $800 a month. Your goal is become the person who saves every payday, no matter what. Start embarrassingly small. Seriously, if the number doesn't feel slightly insulting, it might be too big. $25 a week, $50 per paycheck, $10 a day, because at the beginning, the money doesn't matter as much as the identity. Micro twist. The first $1,000 isn't a financial milestone. It's an obedience milestone. It's proof you can follow a plan even when life gets loud. And once you can follow a plan, scaling up is just math. Rule number 3. Make it automatic and slightly annoying to undo. If saving requires a decision, you're going to lose. Not because you're weak, because your brain is busy doing literally everything else. So we remove the decision. You set an automatic transfer that happens right after payday, not whatever is left at the end of the month. Because whatever is left is a fantasy character, like a unicorn or an affordable used car. Make the money move before you can touch it. And here's the important part. Add friction. Put the emergency fund in a separate account, preferably a high-yield savings account. No debit card attached. No instant transfer if you can help it. You want it accessible in a real emergency, but inconvenient in a I'm sad and Amazon exists moment. Micro twist friction isn't punishment. Friction is protection. If it's too easy to pull out, it's not an emergency fund. It's a future regret fund. Quick reality check what counts as an emergency. This part matters because people sabotage themselves with definitions. An emergency is something that is unexpected, necessary, and urgent. Unexpected means you didn't plan for it. Necessary means it affects safety, health, housing, or income. Urgent means delaying it creates real harm. A sale is not urgent. A weekend trip is not necessary. A new phone because you're bored is, honestly impressive mental gymnastics. Micro twist. Most emergencies are emotions with a price tag, so you need rules now, before you need the money later. Rule number 4. Cut one anchor expense. Not 20 tiny joys. People try to build $10,000 by cutting everything that makes life tolerable. No coffee, no fun, no air conditioning. They basically turn their home into a motivational poster. It works for 2 weeks. Then they snap. And treat myself becomes a felony. Here's the better move. Don't cut 20 tiny joys. Cut one anchor. Anchor expenses are the big fixed costs that show up every month and don't care how motivated you are. Usually, it's one of these. A car payment that's eating your options. Rent or housing costs that crept up quietly. High interest debt minimums. Insurance you haven't shopped in years. A phone plan that thinks it's a mortgage. Dry humor time cancelling Netflix won't beat a $700 car payment. Nice try. What you want is one change that creates permanent breathing room. Even $150 a month freed up is powerful. Because $150 a month isn't small. It's $1,800 a year. And it stacks with everything else you do. Micro-twist small cuts feel responsible. Big cuts change outcomes. Rule number 5. Use the fund to buy better decisions. Not stuff. This is where people get it wrong. They think the emergency fund is just money to spend later. So they hit $2,000 or $5,000 and start shopping for reasons. But the emergency fund's real power isn't what it can purchase. It's what it prevents. It prevents you from putting emergencies on credit cards. It prevents you from taking the first job offer out of panic. It prevents you from staying in a bad situation because you can't afford to leave. And once you're not desperate, you start doing something magical. You start choosing, you negotiate, you walk away, you take interviews, you invest in skills. Not because you're suddenly fearless, because you're not trapped. Micro-twist $10,000 doesn't buy comfort. It buys leverage. Leverage is the ability to say no and survive. It's the ability to wait for a better deal. It's the ability to take a calculated risk. And that's why this milestone changes everything. Rule number 6, protect the fund from risk cosplay. Some people hear leverage and immediately try to turn their emergency fund into a casino. They invest it in something volatile. They lend it to a friend with a dream and no spreadsheet. They toss it into a business idea that might be amazing, but also might be a bonfire. Let's be crystal clear. Your emergency fund is not there to impress you. It's there to stabilize you. This money should be boring. Boring means safe, liquid, and predictable. You are allowed to invest. You are allowed to take risks, just not with the one pile of money whose entire job is to keep your life from catching fire. Micro-twist. The fund must be boring so your life can be brave. The invisible upgrade nobody tells you about. Once you've got a real buffer forming, something weird happens. Your brain stops running constant calculations. You're not doing survival math at the grocery store. You're not negotiating with yourself over every $9.99. And that frees up mental space. That's not just nice. That's strategic. Because when your brain isn't overwhelmed, you start noticing opportunities. You shop insurance instead of auto-paying it forever. You catch fees you didn't know you had. You ask for a raise instead of hoping for one. You take the class that increases your income instead of being scared of the upfront cost. Micro-twist. The emergency fund pays you back in attention. And attention is the beginning of every financial upgrade. Now let's talk about the part that makes people angry, the debt tax. If you're thinking, okay, but $10,000 still feels impossible, I get it. So let's do a simple thought experiment. 2 people, same income, same rent, same life. Person A has $0 saved. Person B has $10,000 saved. Then real life happens. Because real life always happens. A $2,000 surprise hits. Car repair? Medical deductible? Whatever. Person B pays it and gets annoyed. Person A doesn't just pay $2,000. Person A pays $2,000. Plus interest, plus stress, plus worse decisions, plus time. Because if it goes on a credit card, you're not just paying the bill. You're paying for the privilege of not having the money. That's the debt tax. And it's brutal because it hits people who can least afford it. Micro-twist APR is what you pay when you don't have options. So in the next part, we're going to do the math moment, and I'll show you why an emergency fund's return isn't the APY on your savings account. It's the interest you don't pay, the panic you don't feel, and the bad choices you don't have to make. And then I'll give you a clean 7/30/90 checklist to build your first $10,000 without burning out. Now, let's do the math moment that makes the whole $10,000 rule click. Because the point of $10,000 isn't the number, it's what the number prevents. Here's the setup. Two people earn the same income, same city, same rent, same life. Nothing fancy. Person A has $0 saved. Person B has $10,000 saved. Then real life does what it does. A $2,000 surprise shows up. Car repair, medical bill, emergency travel. Pick your flavor. Person B pays $2,000 from the buffer. They're annoyed for a day. Then they move on. Person A doesn't just pay $2,000. Person A puts it on a credit card. Let's use a common example. APR 24%. And let's assume they take a full year to pay it off. This is a simplified illustration, but it's close enough to reveal the trap. At 24% APR, the interest over a year is roughly $480 on a $2,000 balance if it lingers and you're not crushing it immediately. Sometimes it's more, sometimes less, depending on payment timing and how the balance moves. But here's the real punchline. The interest is not the worst part. The worst part is what that $2,000 does to the next 12 months. Because once the card balance exists, it becomes a monthly tax. Now your cash flow is tighter, so the next surprise is even harder. So you use the card again. So the balance grows, so your minimum payment grows. So you have even less room. Micro twist. A lot of people think they have a spending problem. They actually have a compounding problem. Credit card interest doesn't just take money. It takes time. It takes choices. It takes your ability to say no. And that's why the emergency fund has a return that most people don't measure. Your emergency fund return is not the APY. It's the APR you didn't pay. It's the desperation you didn't feel. It's the bad decision you didn't have to make. It's the job offer you didn't accept out of panic. It's the landlord you didn't beg. It's the car repair you didn't finance at a terrible rate. So when people say, saving is pointless because investing returns more, they're comparing the wrong things. Investing is for growth. An emergency fund is for stability. Growth without stability is just a faster way to fall apart. Now, let's turn this into action. Because inspiration is nice. But you need a plan that survives a bad week, a bad mood, and a random Tuesday. Here's your escape plan. 7 days. Step 1, open a separate savings account and label it something serious. Call it $10,000 buffer. Not fun money? Not goals? Buffer? Step 2, set one automatic transfer that starts on your next payday. Pick a number you can keep even if the week is messy. If it's $25 a week, fine. If it's $50 a paycheck, great. The goal is consistency, not heroics. Step 3, write the rule that protects you from yourself. What counts as an emergency, unexpected, necessary, urgent? That's it. And pick your first mini target. Not $10,000. First target is $1,000. Because $1,000 is the point where a flat tire stops being a crisis. 30 days. Now you build the machine. First, find your anchors. Your biggest fixed drains: housing, car, debt minimums, insurance. Pick one anchor to attack. Just one? Maybe you shop car insurance. Maybe you downgrade a phone plan. Maybe you refinance something if it truly reduces cost without extending pain. Maybe you sell the car that's bleeding you. If that's realistic for your situation, you're hunting for permanent monthly breathing room. Even $100 to $200 a month is a big deal. Then you add a small income lever. Not a new identity. Not I'm an entrepreneur now. Just a simple goal, one extra $200 to $400 this month. Overtime. A weekend shift. Selling stuff you don't use. A small gig. Micro twist. You don't need a side hustle. You need a temporary income bump with a specific mission. Mission buy your buffer. 90 days. Now you lock the identity. If you kept the auto transfer running for 90 days, you've already done the rarest thing in personal finance. You proved you can follow a plan longer than your mood. So you scale gently, increase your transfer by 10% to 20%. Not because you should, because your system can handle it now. And you climb the ladder in order. First $1,000, then $2,000, then $5,000, then $10,000. Each rung reduces volatility. Each rung increases options. And when you finally hit $10,000, you do one thing before you celebrate. You decide what happens next. Because $10,000 is not the finish line. It's the launch pad. From there, many people choose one of two directions. Direction 1, increase retirement contributions, like a 401k or Roth IRA, if you're stable and your high-interest debt is under control. Direction 2, attack high-interest debt aggressively. If it's still siphoning your future, which direction is best depends on your situation. This is education, not personal financial advice, but the principle is consistent. Stability first, then growth. Now, let's land this. If you're sitting there thinking, I'm so far from $10,000, listen. The goal isn't to wake up tomorrow with 5 figures. The goal is to stop living in a state where one surprise bill can erase your progress. Because when you're financially fragile, you don't make choices. You make reactions. But when you have a buffer, your life changes in a way that's hard to explain until you feel it. You sleep differently. You talk differently. You walk into meetings differently. You stop acting like you need permission to exist. And that's the $10,000 rule. It doesn't make you rich. It makes you harder to corner. Final twist question. And I want you to answer honestly. If you had $10,000 saved and you were not allowed to spend it on anything fun, what would you do differently next week? Would you ask for a raise? Apply for a better job? Take a class move? Finally fix the thing you've been ignoring? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them. And your answer might help someone else realize what they actually want. If you want a step-by-step breakdown for the next level, subscribe. And watch the next video on the screen, because it connects perfectly the everyday spending trap that quietly keeps people under $10,000, even with a decent salary. You're not behind. You're building stability, and stability is the foundation that makes everything else finally work.